Okay guys, so we are going to go over, and I know it's a little dark, bear with me. We're going to go over sex-linked Punnet squares. Sex-linked Punnet squares are pretty simple, but there is a huge factor here, and the fact that it is a sex-link trait. So, you should remember, if we're looking at something in sex-linked, if you are a male, you're going to be having an X and a Y chromosome. Okay, that's what dictates that you are a male. If you are a female, you're going to have two X chromosomes. And that really is going to come into play whenever we're looking at sex-linked traits. Okay? The main type of sex-linked traits that we will look at, or you will look at, in sophomore year biology is anything that's going to be linked to the X chromosome. So basically what we're looking here is that all your traits are going to be carried on the X chromosome. Okay. Because of this, keep in mind that if you look here, males have only one X. Females have two. Which means males are going to be more likely to show these traits. So males show traits more often. And that's just something to really remember when we're looking at sex-linked traits. So, just like all of our other Punnet squares, a really big thing to make sure that you implement in sex-linked traits. Because other than the fact that it's linked to the sex chromosome, other than that fact, it looks almost exactly the same as our simple Punnet square. So, if we wanted to make keys, let's say we are going to specifically look at hemophilia, okay? Hemophilia is going to be a sex-linked recessive disorder. So if you have the recessive allele, you have it. Now, if you are a female, you have two X's. There are three combinations in which you can inherit these alleles. You can inherit two dominant alleles. You can inherit a dominant and a recessive, or you can inherit two recessive. Okay? Now for these guys, it's a little bit different the way we would consider them. So if you got two dominant alleles, you would be homozygous dominant. Okay? If you carried and you brought that second allele, you would actually, in this case, be called a carrier. Okay? A little bit different. I mean, it is a heterozygote, but in most cases for a sex-linked disorder, you call them a carrier because they carry the recessive allele. And then you can be homozygous recessive. Okay? So these are all the females. Now, you can have two variations if you're a guy. Okay? You'll notice that there's only two different ways that you can be a guy. You can either get the dominant allele or the recessive. So you would basically be a dominant male or a recessive male. Okay? So if you are a male, you cannot be a carrier. That is a key thing. A lot of times they like to try to trick you with a question and says, can a male be a carrier, true or false? No, you cannot, because you only have one X allele. You can only give one X allele, so you cannot be a carrier. So because I think I might be running a little bit of room, I'm going to try to go a little bit smaller here. If I have to, I can erase the whole board. So let's say we're looking at hemophilia. We cross a carrier female. So she's a carrier, so she carries that recessive allele. And we're going to cross her with a dominant male. Okay? The biggest difference between sex-linked Punnet squares and any normal Punnet square is that you have to include the X's, okay? The X's and the Y. So we're going to move this X down. Move this X down. And then we're going to move this X across. And then we're going to move the Y across. So you'll notice that within our Punnet square, we have 2 females and we're going to have 2 males. So that's going to affect our genotypes a little bit. So if we wanted to mark out our genotypes, if you look, you have 1 female who is homozygous dominant. You have 1 female who is a carrier. You have 1 male who has the dominant trait. And you actually are going to have 1 hemophilic male. So that would be our genotype. Our phenotype, a little bit different. Out of all of our kids, you have 2 normal kids. You have 1 carrier. And you have 1 hemophilic kid. Now, technically speaking, if a question got very elaborate, it might ask you for the phenotype specifically, the difference between the males and the females. Keep in mind here, we put 2 normal, but technically it would be 1 normal female, 1 normal male. Sorry, I'm abbreviating a lot. This carrier, we know, has to be a female, and it would be 1 hemophilic male. Okay? So, with sex-linked disorders, a lot of times, if you get this question, it's going to be more specific on whether it wants a male or a female. Alright? So, just kind of keep that in mind and read your questions carefully, and always make your key.